Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sit Down presented by Visa. Annie Petrilla with you. Joining me, a very special guest, captain of the national team, and that would be Jessie Fleming. How you doing today?
Good, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me.
I wish I could have you here for a long time because there are just so many things that we can discuss with you. But I know right now, being part of a tournament, Pinatar Cup, but more importantly, getting to play under a new head coach for the very first time. And there's a lot of questions about what is it that the team's even trying to get from this particular tournament. And you're heading into Tuesday's match. And I'm wondering if you're more focused on continuing to develop this team under a new head coach and she's trying to figure you out, you're trying to figure her out, or is it about going out and winning the tournament?
Yeah, I think it's both at the same time. I think the camp has gone by very quickly. It's been a bit hectic, just all coming from our different club environments and trying to get back on the same page with the national team. But yeah, I think it's a combination of developing players, getting used to a new coach, and always coming into camp wanting to win games.
How has this camp felt compared to other ones? Because again, this is a team that has a lot of players who know each other. So you would think in many ways you would hit the ground running. But is it altered a little bit because of a new head coach? Does it feel more like a blank slate than previous ones?
Yeah, of course, it feels a bit different. Every coach has different ways of doing things, different tactics. It's a different person, so different personality. But yeah, I do think it helps that there's a group of us who have played together for a long time and know each other well. So there is a bit of that cohesion, but definitely some new ideas and new ways of operating, which I think is exciting. I think it's a good challenge for the group and challenge for us as individuals. So I think right now the team is just trying to lean into new systems and new ideas, and yeah, go from there.
Well, as the captain, as you know, a leader on this team, did you have any conversations with Casey before camp started?
Yeah, I mean, just briefly, I think she's just trying to do her best to understand the group, to understand us as individuals, what's worked well for us in the past, and maybe how we can continue to make this environment better and better. So yeah, I think she spoke to the majority of the group, just trying to understand us and yeah, trying to understand how she can get the best out of us.
I always wonder if they, a new coach too, would just pick the brain of the captain a little bit more and somebody who's also just been with the team now for a better part of a decade and what it is that she's also trying to figure out. Like if you were to describe just even the identity of this team to a new head coach, what would that be?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not just me. Like everyone has a different experience of this team. I think there's definitely a very special culture that we have, both with ourselves and with our staff. We're a very close knit group, so I think there's something about preserving that. But I think for Casey as a person, she has very high standards and has already challenged us as a group and as individuals. And I think that change and that challenge is good for us. And yeah, I think right now we just feel really optimistic for what that can bring, but also wanting to be patient and give it a bit of time.
Yeah, it just you kind of feel like you're in that weird phase right now, right? Where this is a team that has quite the undefeated streak. This is a team that has quite the pedigree. Yet here you are with a new head coach and you're trying to figure out new systems. It seems like she's also giving other players, roles that maybe we hadn't seen before, whether it's starting or at least getting some minutes too. So you're trying to figure out these new systems. What would you say has been the biggest challenge you have felt from Casey? I know it's just been a couple games, but when you say she's challenging the group, like what are just maybe some things that have stood out in the early on?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think like every coach has their own perspective on the game. They have their own ways that they want the team to play. I think it's really cool to see so many different players getting good minutes because we do have so many talented players, and I think exciting to see some of those younger players getting minutes. But yeah, I think she's just come in with an extremely high standard, which makes sense based on her background playing in England and coaching at the club she's coached at. So I think that's transferred into our environment. And yeah, definitely something that the players are working to lean into.
When it comes to you on the field, we've seen you play not in different roles in that you are a midfield, but we've seen you maybe play a little bit more of a holding midfielder. We've seen you play a little further up and be a little bit more creative as well. Anywhere you're kind of being asked to play in that midfield, you've been able to do the job admirably. But do you have a preference? Like if you were to tell Casey, hey, this is where I feel like I get the best out of me, where in particular would that be in a formation for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's not about me. I think it's about the players that we have as a whole, and about the balance that the staff want to create in the midfield. So I think that's also the unique part about our midfield is that we have a lot of players who can play in those different roles. So I really do think it depends on who's on the pitch, and I also think that that's kind of a challenge piece for me is like how can I adapt to playing a slightly different position and what can I learn from being in those different positions. So yeah, it's something that I want to lean into, and ultimately it's just about getting the right balance amongst players. I don't think it's about any one individual.
So when it comes to goals, though, and maybe you're right here, we've heard this before that this is a team now that wants to score by committee. And I think we're done with the who's the next Christine St. Clair because it's just impossible when you talk about a generational player. That's exactly what it is, generational. So based on where you're being asked to play and getting the best out of the team, how do you unlock more goals with this team?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it goes to like putting players in positions that they're best suited to. I think, how can we get players like Ashley Lawrence and Jade Riviere in higher crossing positions? Yeah, players that have a history of just being able to deliver quality passes or quality finishes in the box. And I also think it's just going to take time to figure out what partnerships work best, what partnerships are the most lethal, and again, how we can get the best out of all of our players, but in this case, in the attacking players, what that looks like. And I think in the last year or two, you've seen some new faces score goals, like Mimi's come on and had a really good impact in the attack. So I think that's exciting. I think Liv Smith has had an incredible year at Liverpool. So I think there's a lot to be optimistic about in terms of the attack.
So as much as there's a lot of optimism, and I know that it's part of sport, but it still has to be frustrating and kind of feel like stop and go with the amount of injuries this team has faced. How has that affected you? Like injuries to key players, to starters as well. Just how has that kind of affected the flow of things and how have you had to overcome those?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, unfortunately, it's just a part of the game. I think it's something that every country, every club team has to deal with. And I think other players have come in and stepped up, and that's all you can really do. So, yeah, I mean, of course, it affects the group when you don't have someone like Kadisha Buchanan in camp, but we have a number of other wonderful players who can step in, and that's an opportunity for them. And then ultimately, the group is cheering Keyshawn to get back strong as quickly as she can. So unfortunately, I just think that's a part of the sport, and that's the reality for other countries and other club teams as well. And yeah, you kind of just have to ride those waves of adversity and adapt as a team because yeah, ultimately it's just a part of the sport.
And I guess that's where the positivity comes in, where you were just talking about. You see all these other young players who are coming on in and the openness as well. Obviously, when you have a new head coach who wants to be able to see the depth that's even within the organization. How has it been? So now you're I guess it's about a year now that you were named captain. It's been a full year. How do you feel that's kind of affected you? How has your role changed or maybe even, evolved? And especially with these young players, is there more of this inclination to take them under your wing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if my role's changed too much over the last year. I think I was really fortunate in that when I first got on the national team, I had an incredible group of veterans ahead of me. And so I think I learned a lot from people like Erin McLeod, Desi Scott, Sophie Schmidt. So I think I have this kind of unique model of how I want to treat my teammates and how I want to act in the environment. And so, yeah, for me, I think it's just about making it my own, and yeah, trying to help out those younger players in any way I can. But honestly, on their own, they're very bright players, very hardworking. So I think that's cool to see, and yeah, they've just fit right into the environment. So yeah, they're making my job easy.
Well, they might be making your job easy, but we all know the struggles of 2024 and just, how difficult that was to go through it and the Olympics. And, what were some of the things you said to your team? It's like, what was it about this group that they were able to come together as strongly, as greatly as you did, to have the performance and rally a country around you during the Olympics as well? What was said? What were some of the things that you leaned on, some of the characteristics of players to say, hey, like this is why we're close. This is why we have a good group of veterans. And this is perhaps why you're also optimistic about the future. How would you compartmentalize 2024?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to be learned from every situation. I think during the summer, I was just so impressed by how everyone responded as individuals. I think each player on the team stepped up in different ways and kind of brought their personality to the situation in different ways. Some looked at it through humor, some were playing music and dancing before training to kind of keep the vibe up. Shalina Zadorsky ran some yoga sessions for us. So I think everyone kind of added positively to the group in their own individual way, which was really cool to see. And I also think that we have a really tight bond with our staff. So yeah, we were kind of able to lean on each other, both as staff and players. And I think that was really important. And then yeah, at the end of the day, I just think it's a group of good people, a group of hardworking Canadians. So I think we can kind of always go back to that. But yeah, I would just say how we're able to lean on each other and just how everyone is kind of able to bring their own unique personality to the group.
Well, you could tell obviously it's a group that really likes each other. I think there was some videos that came out from the Christmas party, Kaylin Sheridan going around, yeah, being the Grinch. But then I think, didn't you and Jordan Heidema, weren't you competing? And she took you out, man. Like, I mean, what were the two of you doing? And clearly you're okay.
Yeah, I can't remember what we were doing. I think it was just some Christmas games, but yeah, I think in camp we have a good balance of when we're training or when we're watching film, it's quite serious, but then when we're not talking about or playing soccer, we're able to have fun with each other. There's always girls playing cards, or the younger players are always making TikToks. Like there's a lot of laughing, and yeah, we just get along really well with each other, and I think that's why this group is so special. Like I enjoy coming to camp. Like I look forward to seeing my friends, and I think it makes it easier for us to be able to have tough conversations on the pitch or to go through, yeah, events like what happened this summer. So I think I feel really lucky to have all my teammates.
How many TikTok videos have you appeared in?
Yeah, that's not my forte. I'd say I'm more with hard playing people.
You just avoid it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, noted. We probably won't see you in those videos. The Northern Super League, obviously, this is something a lot of people are really excited about. That it's going to launch its first year, its inaugural year will be in April. And Emma Regan, obviously playing with you here in the Pinatar Cup, became the first Northern Super League player to play for Canada in that first game in the tournament. How impactful do you think this league is going to be for the national team?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be huge. Like, I think it's cool for me. I have a lot of like childhood friends or people that I grew up playing with who have signed for teams in the league. So I think that's really, really cool. And I think it's just going to be a great intermediary step for younger players coming out of high school or university, if they're not quite at the national team level. But you're also seeing a lot of really talented players like Emma, like Sam, sign for teams in the league. So I think that's exciting as well. And yeah, based on what I've seen, it looks like there's going to be a ton of quality in the league. So I'm really excited to watch games this year and see where it goes.
Do you have a team you're cheering for?
I haven't decided yet, but yeah, yeah,
No.
I haven't
Okay.
decided yet.
Okay. Maybe once the season gets going and we see how things are, maybe we jump on the bandwagon. Maybe we go for the underdog. Like, well, okay, I'm with you. I see how you're trying to do that. Do you see yourself attending games? I mean, obviously, you're pretty busy. NWSL Portland, you've got national team duties, but would that kind of be something that's on the list to attend one of these matches?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be awesome. Like I said, I have a ton of friends in the league and would love to be able to support them and see a game live. So yeah, fingers crossed that works out.
All right. Before I let you go, obviously everything is always leading towards a big tournament. And, I know it seems like it's far away, but, it isn't. And everyone's always talking about World Cup 2027. What do you think it's going to take in the next couple of years to make this team a contender in that tournament?
Yeah, I mean it's a good question. I think for me, kind of like you said, I don't like to get too far ahead of myself. I think if we're diligent in our everyday, if we're working hard in our club environments, I think if we lean into this new coaching staff and the higher standards that are being asked of us, then yeah, I feel like we'll be a strong contender going into that tournament. And if this camp is any indication, I think seeing some of these younger players continue to develop. And I'm sure they'll be a force for us in that tournament.
We look forward to it. Appreciate you taking the time. This has been the Sit Down presented by Visa. Captain Jessie Fleming.